everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie, and welcome to another episode of Exploring the Omnivore Universe. This is a series where I talk about the label Omnivore Recordings and their rich catalog of great reissues and even new albums. On this episode, I'm going to be discussing a great band from the 80s called Gleaming Spires. By the way, if you're a little unsure about diving into Gleaming Spires, wait to the end of this video because I've got a medley of songs from the three albums I'll be talking about. Now, I got into Gleaming Spires even before I knew that there was a Gleaming Spires because I had gone out and I had bought an album called Sharp Cuts. And there was a song by a band called Bates Motel, and I really dug that track. It sort of reminded me of the quirkiness of, let's say, the Cretones or early Motels, or maybe the less poppy Plimsolls, but really great track. But I never heard anything else by the band. But what I found out later is that Bates Motel, they'd been trying to get a record deal, and they used to frequent this coffee place in LA at the Farmers Market where Ron and Russell Mael from Sparks used to hang out as well. So they got to talking with them, and the guys in Bates Motel convinced the Mael brothers to go check out one of their live shows in hopes that Ron and Russell would maybe produce some recordings by the band. Well, instead, Ron and Russell said, "Hey, we're putting together a new version of Sparks. Would you guys be interested in joining the band?" So these guys went from wanting Sparks to produce them to actually being members of Sparks. And we're not going to focus on Sparks here, but I will tell you that the members of Bates Motel was Les Boehm on bass and vocals, David Kendricks on drums, Bob Hogg on guitar and vocals. Those guys were incorporated into Sparks. They also brought in a keyboard player by the name of Jim Goodwin. And that version of Sparks, they recorded Womp That Sucker in 1981, Angst in My Pants in 1982, Sparks in Outer Space in 1983, Pulling Rabbits Out of a Hat in 1984, and I believe that they are also on Music That You Can Dance To from 1986. Now, because the band Bates Motel had been incorporated into Sparks, Bates Motel were no more. But Les Boehm and David Kendrick continued to write songs together, and they laid down a bunch of demos, and they started attracting attention. In fact, their single, Are You Ready for the Sex Girls, became one of those crazy hits out of nowhere, not only because the word sex was in the title, but because it was a catchy song. Now, that was actually the demo that they laid down, and they had taken these recordings to producer Stephen Hague, formerly of Jules and the Polar Bears, one of my favorite LA bands, and who would later go on to produce tons of records like Pet Shop Boys and stuff like that. Well, he took these songs, and instead of bringing the band in and producing a whole new album based on these demos, he added keyboards and sound effects and layered these songs, and they released those demos as an album. That album is called Songs of the Spires, came out in 1981. This is the album with Are You Ready for the Sex Girls, but it also has When Love Goes Under Glass. It has How to Get Girls Through Hypnotism. Great album. Very quirky, very raw, very primitive, but still, it has that 80s great new wave vibe to it. It's not exactly a synth pop record, and it's not a post-punk record, but it's kind of a combination of both of those. Now, the great thing about this reissue on Omnivore Recordings is the fact that they have the full complete album, plus they've got a handful of Bates Motel tracks, which are all fantastic. That whole Cretones, Motels, Plimsolls comparison is perfect for this batch of tracks. Now, it doesn't have that song that was on Sharp Cuts. That's called Live Among the Dancers, but that's probably because of a licensing issue. But this does have those tracks, and it has their next EP, which is called Life Out on the Lawn, that came out in 1982. So, again, this has the entire Songs of the Spires album, the EP, Life Out on the Lawn, and some unreleased Bates Motel recordings. And it's fantastic. If you love quirky, if you love pop, this is definitely something that should be on your radar. In 1983, they released the even better Walk on Well-Lighted Streets. Fantastic album. The songwriting is more focused. The production is more focused. The dynamics are better. There's more layers to the songs. It doesn't sound like Sparks. They're not trying to sound like Sparks. If anything, they sound closer to like, maybe Talking Heads or some of the quirky post-punk stuff that was happening in the New York scene. Very interesting. A lot of great hooks to die for. I think the rawness and the uniqueness of the first album is really what attracted people. But if you're looking for better songs and better all-around package, then this is definitely it. Now, the great thing about this, of course, it has the Party EP, which is also known as the Funk for Children EP. And as another bonus track, it has the full band version of Are You Ready for the Sex Girls, which I had never heard before. I don't even know if it's been released. I mean, the version you've heard on movie soundtracks and on 80s shows and stuff, that's the version here. But if you want to hear what the full band sounded like recording it, definitely check out this. This is another great package on Omnivore Recordings by Gleaming Spires. Now, although they weren't working with Stephen Hague anymore for their third album, this is yet another great collection of quirky, melodic pop songs. It's called Welcoming a New Ice Age. Came out in 1985, produced by Greg Penny. Another great album filled with great tracks. I mean, Mercy's great. The title track is great, Bigger Than Life. And the great thing about this is it has 5 previously unreleased bonus tracks that they recorded in 85 for the soundtrack to the movie School Spirit. I mean, just one of the bonus tracks, I Want More, could have been a big hit on KROQ or any of those stations. It's just absolutely fantastic. It's sort of an extension of this album, but it's different enough. It's maybe even more commercial. Now, of course, I don't mind anything being commercial as long as it's good. And still, when you're talking about Gleaming Spires and commercial, it's still kind of a little bit left of center, if you know what I mean. And that was it for Gleaming Spires. They released those, and I think the version of Sparks that featured them broke up in about 86 or so. I know that Jim Goodwin was also a member of The Call, and I love The Call. And he played on a bunch of their records. In fact, he may even have been involved with some of the reunions, but just a great talent. In fact, all the guys in Gleaming Spires were great talents. The problem is they weren't writing songs that were geared towards the top 40. They were writing songs that maybe would have wreaked havoc in the top 40. And that's what really, really excites me. I love when a band takes, just a perfect blueprint of, let's say, pop or new wave, and then they mess with it and create something that's really unique. And that's what you're going to find on these 3 Gleaming Spires albums. Tons of bonus tracks. I mean, just these bonus tracks alone, it's another album and a half worth of material. But anyway, sit back, relax, because I've got a little medley that features songs from all 3 of these CDs, and hopefully it will entice you to go out and check out these great reissues that are available now on Omnivore Recordings. Gleaming Spires, definitely worth it to you 80s new wave and quirky pop fans. And let's give it a listen.
Finally, my feelings have arrived. Something that doesn't show. It's a big
Anyway, that's it for this episode of Exploring the Omnivore Universe. I hope that this inspired you to check out Gleaming Spires. And remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that bell for future notifications, and leave a comment. And until the next time, remember me, I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.